I was older than him, twice his age. In fact, teen. He knew it the moment Dad introduced us. Yet when he turned to shake my hand, his eyes didn't carry the awkwardness I expected. No hesitation. Just a warm steadiness. As if he wasn't meeting his coworker's daughter, but someone he already understood. I first saw him on a quiet afternoon in early spring, standing beside my father's car with his sleeves rolled up and sunlight catching the edge of his smile. My father had talked about him for weeks, Elias. The kid with too much energy and not enough sense to slow down. I expected someone loud, someone restless. Instead, he looked calm, composed, like he carried stillness with him wherever he went. At first, I thought it was politeness. Then I realized he was simply present in a way most people weren't. Dad invited him inside for tea. Elias sat across from me at our kitchen table, listening to my father's long stories with genuine attention, laughing quietly at the familiar parts. Every so often, our eyes met, and he would give me a small, knowing smile, like we were sharing a secret only the two of us could hear. It wasn't flirtation, nothing bold, nothing inappropriate. It was something softer, quieter, a feeling of being seen. After that day, I found him around the house more often, helping Dad with the porch steps, fixing a flickering light, bringing over tools because he just happened to have them. He always knocked gently, always asked before stepping inside, always spoke to me with an ease that made me feel lighter in my own home. One afternoon, while Dad went to fetch something from the hardware store, Elias stayed behind to finish sanding a wooden railing. I brought him a glass of lemonade, and he thanked me with that soft smile of his. We stood in comfortable silence, the sun warming the air, the scent of sawdust settling around us. "You make this place feel peaceful," he said suddenly, almost as if he hadn't meant to say it out loud. The comment caught me off guard. "It's just an old house. Nothing special." He looked at me then, really looked, and shook his head gently. "It's special because you're in it." I felt a warmth rise through me that had nothing to do with the weather. It wasn't romantic in the traditional sense. It wasn't bold or forward. It was genuine, a kindness that touched something inside me I didn't realize had been quiet for a long time. From that moment on, something subtle began to shift. He visited with Dad, but his glances toward me grew more thoughtful, lingering longer. Not in a way that crossed any line. Not in a way that would worry anyone. Just in a way that made me feel like he noticed the little things about me. The way I tucked my hair behind my ear. The way I wrapped my hands around my mug. The way I paused before answering when something touched me deeply. He noticed, and I felt the noticing. One evening, when the sky was brushed with pink and gold, Dad asked him to stay for dinner. After the meal, Dad excused himself early, worn out from the long day. Elias and I ended up cleaning the table together, working in a soft rhythm that felt almost natural. "You don't have to help," I told him as he washed the last dish. "I don't mind," he replied. "I like being here." There was no hesitation in his voice, no embarrassment, just truth. Something in me softened, some guarded part that had been protecting itself out of habit more than necessity. We stepped outside afterward to breathe the cool evening air. The porch light glowed softly above us, and the crickets had just started their nightly chorus. He leaned against the railing. He had repaired himself, and I sat on the wooden step beside him. "You seem far away tonight," he said gently. "Not far," I answered, "just remembering what it feels like to enjoy small moments." He nodded, as if he understood exactly what I meant. Small moments are the ones that stay. His words sank into me slowly, like warm water spreading through cold hands. When he looked down at me, his gaze held a depth that made my breath catch. There was admiration in it, not the flashy kind, not the kind that tries to impress. Something quieter, respectful. A recognition of the years I had lived. The things I carried, the calm I tried to maintain. "I hope you know," he said softly. "You make people feel understood." even without trying. For a second, the world felt still. "I don't know if I do," I whispered. "I do," he said. "I feel it every time I'm near you." My heart tightened in a gentle, unexpected way. I had spent years giving to family, to responsibilities, to the demands of everyday life. I had forgotten what it felt like to receive something so simple, yet so deeply felt. Genuine appreciation, freely offered. We stayed on that porch for a long time, speaking quietly about life, about the things we wanted, yet never said out loud. He told me he admired strength in people. Not the loud kind, but the steady kind, the kind that keeps going even when no one notices. He said it while looking at me. The air between us was warm and gentle, a safe space where age suddenly felt irrelevant. Not because we ignored it, but because we saw each other beyond it. Two people at different points in life, but meeting in the same quiet moment of understanding. When Dad called Elias the next morning for help with a project, he arrived earlier than usual. I found him in the yard, adjusting his gloves. When he saw me, his face lit up with a familiarity that felt almost like memory. "You look well rested," he said with a soft grin. "I slept better than usual," I replied. He nodded, as if he knew he had something to do with that. Throughout the day, whenever our paths crossed, there was a quiet warmth between us, gentle, unspoken. Dad didn't notice. No one would. It wasn't dramatic or obvious. It was just there. A presence, a connection. Later, when Dad stepped inside to take a phone call, I handed Elias a bottle of cold water. Our fingers brushed lightly on for a second, but the touch felt like a spark of recognition, as if we had both become aware of something delicate forming between us. "Thank you," he murmured, his voice softer than usual. I didn't pull my hand away immediately, not out of boldness, but because the moment felt peaceful, like something we didn't need to rush or define. "I'm glad you're here," I said quietly. His expression softened, his eyes warm and open. "I'm glad you want me here." There were no promises exchanged. No dramatic confessions, just an understanding that something meaningful was growing between us, respectfully, gently. As weeks passed, our connection deepened in small, careful moments, shared smiles, quiet conversations, the comfortable silence of two people who simply enjoyed being near each other. It wasn't about romance in the traditional sense. It wasn't about age or definitions. It was about two hearts recognizing something familiar in each other, something that felt like peace. I realized then that connection doesn't follow rules. It doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't check differences or expectations. It simply happens when two people see each other clearly. And he saw me. Not as my father's daughter. Not as someone older or wiser, just me.